I've been hearing about this shit. Lindsay, Clancy, that's her name. Bruh. Gang. I'm not watching 2 fucking hours, bro. Hell no. But no bullshit though. Apparently this white girl, this white woman, I can't even say it on Twitch. This white woman takes her 2 kids off the map. And niggas in real life, real people that we share the earth with in our society is giving this bitch money for it. You're telling me that niggas have raised $1 million+ for a white woman that took her kids off the map? Yo, we gotta watch a video on this. I just don't know what type of video to watch, bro. Like, holy. We could do this one.
It feels like the entire world has all eyes on the Lindsay Clancy.
Day 16? Yeah, this happened like 2 years ago. 3 years ago, I think. And now niggas is freaking out because, like, the trial, something happened with the trial currently. Like, she's getting tried now, apparently. I don't know.
Trial unfolding in Massachusetts right now. And trust me, we are deeply in it too. Of all the people involved in this case, those who have taken the stand, something has stuck out to me hearing their accounts of what happened. We need to take a closer look at what did they know and when. 3 young kids lost their lives tragically.
3? Cause she took 3 of her, all 3. Bro, if this, I'm gonna say this, and I ain't trying to bring race into it or nothing. Cause this is not okay, whoever the hell does this. But if this is a black woman that did this, they would have more or less just, they would have hung her ass, gang. They would have took her off the map like bees. She wouldn't even got a trial. She would have got a death penalty, bro. In GTA.
And something we don't always see. You have both the prosecution and the defense here agreeing the person who killed them was their mom, Lindsay Clancy. But this is not a cut and dry case. It is.
What do you mean, but? There's no more that needs to be said.
Incredibly nuanced. Was it postpartum psychosis, as her defense team claims? Or were the killings premeditated? Did the medical community fail her when she asked for help? Or did they do all they could?
Bro, wait. Postpartum psychosis? That's a real thing? I know postpartum depression, but what the hell do you mean postpartum psychosis? That is a terrible, that's not even justifiable, gang. I'm depressed, so let me go take my kids off the map. What? Bro, what? What?
And then you've had everyone spiraling online about her husband, Patrick Clancy, questioning if his testimony and timeline is adding up. The trial is unfolding right now as we speak. So, Crime Junkies, I'm Brianna Whitney, and in the headlines this week, we are diving deep into what you guys have been asking for, the stunning twists and turns of the Lindsay Clancy trial, and what's at stake. As it stands right now, the trial is deep into the defense's case, with their witnesses on the stand. So that includes Lindsay and Patrick's moms and a number of mental health professionals. And we're going to get to all of that. But I actually want to start this episode looking at Patrick Clancy, Lindsay Clancy's husband. What did he know and when? Because I think he's a really important piece here. He was the first witness to take the stand in this trial, and for good reason. He, of course, was one of the first to see him.
Nah, imagine being a Pops gang. Like, your wife took your kids off the map. Oh my God, I'd probably do it to myself too.
his
Low-key.
wife mentally
Can't live
deteriorating.
like that.
He and Lindsay actually both
Couldn't
detailed
live.
it in
I
civil
could not
lawsuits
live like that.
right before the trial even began in July. So let's go back 4 years.
Mm-mm.
This case really all began in September of 2022. Up until then, Patrick and Lindsay had what seemed to be a really great marriage. Both had good jobs. Lindsay was a labor and delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, and Patrick was working for Microsoft. On the personal front, they really had it all too. They had their daughter Cora, she's their oldest. She was 5 at the time. Son Dawson, who was 3,
Bro.
and Lindsay had just given birth to their 3rd child, Callan, who wasn't even 1 yet. Patrick himself said on the stand,
God.
Lindsay was such a good and loving mom. But like so many moms, Lindsay knew she was struggling with postpartum mental health, like severe anxiety and depression. She wasn't sleeping, and she described her body as being heavy. Now, it got bad enough that she went and sought
Okay, I know what I got an idea of what postpartum is. What? But like, hold on. Childbirth typically lasts for 6 to 8 weeks through full physical and emotional recovery. It could take up to 6 months or longer. Hormone level shifts. Mood disorder. Yeah. Sadness, low energy, heavy worry. Damn, cuz. Damn. I don't think this leads you to take your kids off the map, though. Is postpartum psychosis a real thing? Did they just make that up? 1 to 2 out of... Oh, my God. Oh, my... So it is real. 1 or 2 out of 1,000 women get this shit? Bro.
psychiatric help in September of 2022. And Patrick testified he watched as Lindsay tried medication after medication from a multitude of doctors for months, and her condition just kept getting worse. He actually went to one of her appointments with her in December during what he testified was a big spiral, and he told the nurse practitioner things had gotten 10 times worse ever since she had been on the drug Seroquel, which is an antipsychotic. Yet the CNP increased the dose, according to court records. And Patrick testified things had gotten so bad by December
Hey, ain't
that
that the
Lindsay
drug
said
that,
she was having thoughts of hurting the
Uzi was
kids and
rapping
having
about? I know, bro. Seroquel so cool. All right, let me stop.
paranoid delusions.
But that's
And he remembered
Uzi, bro,
she said
that's
that
the
more
only
than
way
once.
I know the drug,
So things
bro.
were noticeably really concerning by this point. But Patrick said sometimes it was hard because Lindsay would be severely struggling one minute, but then playing with the kids and seemingly happy the next. So it was really hard to navigate. Lindsay spent 5 days in a psychiatric facility in early January 2023 and was released in time for Cora's birthday party on January 7th. And by January 24th, he actually said Lindsay had been having one of her best days. She had taken Cora to the pediatrician, then she was outside building a snowman with the kids. All was well, at least he thought. Patrick and Lindsay had been talking about getting takeout for dinner that night at a restaurant called 3V. So when Lindsay texted him at 5:15 p.m. asking if he could go pick up some Pedialax at CVS for Cora, it was like, yeah, no problem. He could grab the medicine and then go pick up their dinner. Now, if you are chronically online, like me, or even remotely watching videos about the Lindsay Clancy trial, then you know that Patrick's timeline of events and the things he said happened next has been scrutinized like crazy. Because, does it all add up? He told the court he left around 5:15 p.m. and that CVS was only 3 minutes away. The issue people are having online is this trip to CVS seemingly did not take 3 minutes. It took 17 minutes to get there based on CVS surveillance showing him walking into the store at 5:32.
Damn.
So why did it take that long to get there? We don't know. When Patrick was asked more about this on the stand, he said he didn't know if he just got to the parking lot earlier and sat in his car or what. He didn't say he went anywhere else before, so this has not sat well with trial watchers. But nonetheless, he walked into the CVS at 5:32 p.m. 1 minute later, he said he called Lindsay because the medicine she wanted was sold out, so he wanted to know if a generic brand would work instead. She didn't answer, but she did call back a minute later and said that was fine. And Patrick testified she sounded busy but quiet on the phone, which is kind of an interesting combo of adjectives he used, but he chalked it up to thinking she was probably just giving the kids baths. So he continued on to the restaurant 3V to grab the pickup order. And we know he got there at 5:54 p.m. because their surveillance cameras showed him too. Now, people online have been spiraling about Patrick's shoes. Is he wearing the same shoes at CVS and at the restaurant? Like, did he go straight there, as he says? Putting the surveillance images from both CVS and 3V side by side, it's honestly impossible to prove for sure. But these are likely the same shoes. It's at least not something attorneys on either side have
no way people actually think the Pops had something to do with this, right?
contested. So Patrick then said he got back to the house around 6:09 p.m. And that's when he found Lindsay on the ground outside bleeding from her wrists and her neck. And he's like, oh my God, what happened? And he said Lindsay told him she tried to take her life, then said the kids were in the basement. But she didn't tell him anything else about the kids or their conditions, just they were in the basement. So Patrick called 911 and said while he was on the phone, he was going to go check on the kids. I mean, had they just watched their mom jump out a window? That's exceptionally traumatic. And the general public did not get to hear the 911 call. Only the jury did. But we know based on Patrick's testimony, he called 911 and was on the phone with the dispatcher when he found Cora, Dawson, and Callan in the basement, strangled with exercise bands. And he screamed on the 911 call, she killed the kids. There were tears in the courtroom when the 911 call was played. The discovery was the most unimaginable tragedy possible. Patrick Clancy was never, ever considered a suspect in the kids' deaths. In fact, he was there as detectives were collecting evidence at the home. But the cross-examination of Patrick Clancy on the stand was about to stir up an online explosion of scrutiny about where he really was the night of the murders. Because
did they not have security cameras at their crib? Everyone has fucking security cameras for their crib now.
Of one email and the time that it was sent.
What you mean email? What are they talking about?
Was the night of the murders. Because of one email and the time that it was sent.
Bro.
Lindsay Clancy's defense attorney.
There's no way he had anything to do with this. The fact of the matter is the mom was at the crib with the kids. What else do we need to know? She did that shit. What the hell is the father? Why are they overanalyzing the dad?
Kevin Reddington asked Patrick about something very specific, a work email he sent. The data showed it was sent at 5:24 p.m. Wait. Okay, 5:24 p.m. That was like right in the middle of everything. Getting that text from Lindsay to go pick up the medicine, leaving the house at 5:15, driving, and then getting to CVS. So the timing definitely seemed kind of weird to just send a work email to staff in the middle of all of that. But then Reddington asked Patrick if he sent it from his Surface Pro. That's his home computer. And Patrick said he wasn't sure. Well, that sent the internet into a frenzy. Oh my God, is he lying about where he was? That's what people have speculated. I've seen a lot of chatter online about the email being sent from his home IP address. As far as actual testimony goes in the courtroom, there's been nothing about that. Patrick said it's possible he sent the email from his phone while sitting in his car at CVS. Regardless of when and where he sent it, this seemed like a really important time for Patrick Clancy to get his story straight. And in the court of public opinion, this started to shift the online temperature of sympathy for Patrick, because the more people watching this trial interpreted a sort of shiftiness or inconsistency in his story, the more they started to go down the Patrick Clancy rabbit hole. People asking online, why did he allegedly start dating someone new just months after the murders? We know he's remarried now. And creator Just in the Nick of Time was the first to report a finding about Patrick's reported All Trails account, showing he gave this detailed review of a trail in Costa Rica, talking about how amazing it was. It's public online. I saw it myself. Well, that review...
What does this have to do with the kids?
...was posted in February 2023. The kids were killed January 24th, 2023, and Callan actually didn't officially pass away until January 27th. So then you had people online questioning that. I mean, you were grieving the loss of your kids with your wife paralyzed from the fall and simultaneously the suspect in their deaths, and days later you're posting a trail review in Costa Rica? But I want to say this. People do deal with immense grief differently. They handle it differently, and it can look vastly different from person to person. Until you are in that position, you don't know how you'd handle it. Now, I interviewed Cheryl Bader for this episode. She is a clinical associate professor of law at Fordham School of Law in New York, and she focuses on running a criminal defense clinic. She's also a former assistant U.S. attorney. And she says you have to remember what you hear and read online from people putting their opinion out on TikTok and Instagram, those social media sites. That is not what the jury is exposed to.
Those jurors that are sitting there, they're hearing certain things that the rest of the public didn't hear, like the 911 call itself. And the jurors got this very intimate look at this agonizing, guttural response that this man had.
Bro, I'm watching this damn white lady that killed her. Oh, shit. Yo, Twitch, sorry. Watching this white lady took her 3 kids off the map. And there's people in real life rallying and raising money in support for the bitch.
To coming home and finding his wife having attempted suicide and strangled his kids. They're also not hearing certain things because they shouldn't be looking at social media that's sort of going around
millions
online.
Of dollars, just
and
not
so
a couple
I think
thousand, bro.
what plays out in the courtroom is
They
different than
raised
what's
$1
playing
million
out
and
in
some
social
change
media.
for her ass for doing it.
So
to her
when we're
kids.
looking at who knew what and when, in this case, Patrick's account of things is somewhat different than what first responders and detectives testified to. Their POV and testimony of what unfolded next in the Clancy investigation has also been picked apart by thousands who have watched the trial live. Several first responders have testified, this includes police officers and paramedics, that they found Lindsay Clancy on the ground, outside, unconscious, and unresponsive. Now, at that point, they did not know the extent of her injuries, but they found her body temperature was severely hypothermic at 82 degrees, which is absolutely a medical emergency. How long was she out there to have a body temp of 82 degrees? That is wildly low. A medical expert told Parade newspaper it likely wasn't just the freezing cold temps, but the fact that she had had severe physical trauma, blood loss, and a spinal injury that all played a part in her body temp. But the thing that trial watchers and sleuths online zeroed in on even more, how was it that minutes before first responders got there, Patrick said Lindsay told him she tried to take her life and where the kids were, but then all of a sudden was unconscious and unresponsive when paramedics got there? That didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And neither did the cuts on Lindsay Clancy's body. First responders testified her neck and wrist cuts were superficial and not life-threatening. Lindsay was a longtime nurse. Assumably, she would know what kind of cuts would actually do life-threatening damage if she was trying to end her life. It seemed like every new detail that was coming out in the trial was casting more and more doubt on what truly happened. And then we learned about the fingerprint evidence, or should I say, lack thereof. State Police Trooper Jonathan O'Loughlin testified that there were no usable fingerprints of Lindsay's recovered from the knife or the exercise bands she used to strangle the children. How? Even her defense attorney seemed confused by that too. Like,
what? Yo, did she use gloves? I don't see anyone else doing this but her. She must have used gloves.
He double confirmed it with the trooper. Well, the trooper basically explained prints can be really fragile, and the texture of the piece of evidence itself, like the exercise bands, could affect getting usable prints for comparison. As for the knife, he just said there was not enough there either. And it's not like they found someone else's fingerprints on this stuff. There were no viable fingerprints at all from anyone. Even if that seemed odd, I do come back to the same thing every time. Lindsay's own defense team is not contesting who killed the kids. They say it was her. Their argument to the jury is she cannot be held criminally responsible for the murders because they claim she was suffering from postpartum psychosis, which is being used as an insanity defense. And I'll tell you this, I have covered insanity defenses in trials before, and they often fail because it is really hard to convince a jury someone isn't criminally responsible for the killings that their own legal team says they did. But in this case, with the concerning testimony we were about to hear on the stand from the doctors who saw and treated...
Bro, that is the sorriest fucking excuse ever, bro. She need the death penalty. She need the death penalty, bro. She need that shit. Charge her criminally. Charge that bitch criminally, bro. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? What do you mean you can't charge her criminally because he was having postpartum psychosis? Nigga. What? When have niggas ever been so depressed they tried to kill someone else in GTA? When? I know they try to blame the pops. Oh my God, bro.
Lindsay during her mental demise and what Lindsay reportedly said herself, I think the insanity defense has momentum.
Yo, bro. So what if she wins on if she wins this shit on postpartum insanity or whatever, postpartum depression? No. Postpartum psychosis. If she wins on that, will she go to jail? Or will she go out free and just go to like a mental facility? That's what I'm trying to know, like, what's gonna happen if she actually gets away with this shit?
First off, what exactly is postpartum psychosis? According to the Cleveland Clinic, postpartum psychosis is a condition that affects a person's sense of reality, causing hallucinations, delusions, and paranoia, and in severe cases, could cause someone to attempt to harm themselves or their newborn. Lindsay's defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, says she was suffering from this and could not understand the nature of her actions and what she was doing was wrong, therefore should not be held criminally responsible. They also say she was failed by the medical system and the doctors she was seeking help from. Now, this is a huge part of this case we need to break down, so stick with me here. We learned that over the course of 5 months, from September 2022 to January 2023, Lindsay Clancy sought help or went to doctor's appointments more than a dozen times. She went to the emergency room for a mental health crisis twice, she went to a behavioral program, and she checked into McLean Hospital, which is a psychiatric facility. The defense says she was over-medicated, which led to the postpartum psychosis because the doctors reportedly were not communicating with each other and prescribing and discontinuing all sorts of drugs from antipsychotics to antidepressants. Ultimately, the defense said Lindsay was prescribed 13 different medications during those 5 months. So what did the doctors know during that time that led to that? The doctor Lindsay Clancy saw the longest and most often was psychiatrist Dr. Jennifer Tufts with Astor Mental Health. And Lindsay first went to her in September of 2022 and saw her through January. Their last appointment together was actually the day before the murders happened. It's worth noting that both Lindsay and Patrick Clancy have civil malpractice lawsuits against several of the doctors who have testified at the trial. Dr. Tufts is one of them. Tufts said Lindsay first reported she was having anxiety and couldn't sleep. And that turned into Lindsay showing signs of severe depression. By January, Tufts recorded Lindsay's condition as deteriorating. Now, Tufts spent a lot of time on the stand, and it did not go overly well. For one thing, her career was called into question by the defense. She had actually only been independently practicing psychiatry for 1 month when she saw Lindsay Clancy. And then something that shocked the...
What the fuck? Y'all didn't know this before y'all sent her to that place with that lady? No one's seeing me that ain't been in the field for like 3 years, bro. Okay. I'm not defending her at all. She still definitely did that shit in my eyes, but like, what the fuck?
Internet of trial watchers in the worst way. Dr. Tufts said she saw Lindsay 14 different times, but never in person. These were only virtual appointments, no longer than 25 minutes, which was criticized by Lindsay's defense team as Dr. Tufts watched Lindsay's condition go drastically downhill. And then there was a question of what Dr. Tufts actually wrote on the record about Lindsay's condition, which led to this tense moment in the courtroom.
Can you just read this paragraph here for us?
No sleep last night. Falls asleep after 40 minutes. Heart racing, severe anxiety. Worrying about kids, baby, sleep. Yawns but not drowsy. Not hyper, pressured speech.
What was that? Not hyper what?
Not hyper, not pressured speech is what I meant. I know it doesn't say not, but that is exactly what I meant.
Wait, when did you see this that you noticed that it did not say not?
I don't care what it says. I know what I meant.
Well, when you wrote this, you did not say not pressured speech. You said in the medical record, pressured speech, right?
No.
Does it say that?
Yeah, the word is the word not is right before not hyper, comma, pressured speech.
Right,
The two
so
are
what does
following
a
the
comma
not.
mean?
Reddington asked
Oh
Dr.
my
Tufts if she had
God.
ever treated a patient with postpartum psychosis. And Tufts said
Shit.
no, because it's a rare disorder, and she'd only been practicing 1 month. But what about someone else? Dr. Aaliyah Goodhart. Dr. Goodhart worked at McLean Hospital. That's the psychiatric facility that Lindsay spent 5 days at just weeks before she reportedly killed her kids. And Goodhart had been practicing psychiatry for more than 20 years.
Okay, then
She
she should know
also
what
is
the
being
hell she-
sued by the Clancys for malpractice.
She
Now,
should know what
Dr.
the hell she's
Goodhart
talking about.
testified that Lindsay had concerns about an antipsychotic she had been prescribed to help with insomnia, and she said she had been feeling numb. But Dr. Goodhart testified that Lindsay never said she had thoughts of harming anybody else. And when she started to feel better and wanted to make it to her daughter Cora's birthday party, doctors at McLean discharged her on January 5th with prescriptions for an anti-anxiety drug and a sleep aid. So, like, what if things
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. I don't think cause it's got to be whatever drug on top of postpartum psychosis. Even with the drugs on top of her condition after having her third kid, I don't think that shit can make you just want to take your kids off the map. There's got to be some type of motherly instinct that kicks in where it's like, okay, hell no, this can't go. But she ended up doing that shit anyways. I don't think drugs were the problem, bro. Honestly, it's got to be something else. It wasn't the drugs. I don't think it was the lack. I don't think it was because of the drugs or the mental help. I don't think it was because of that shit. I don't know.
got worse? What should she do? And Dr. Goodhart said they told Lindsay to just check out psychologytoday.com to find outpatient providers with her insurance. This was a woman who was clearly severely ill. And we're just suggesting Psychology Today? Reddington definitely questioned in court if that was adequate discharge care. He also asked Dr. Goodhart the same question he asked Dr. Tufts. Had she seen someone with postpartum psychosis?
How many women have you treated that were suffering from postpartum psychosis?
I don't recall. I don't remember, but I think it would stick in my memory, so I don't think that I probably have.
You don't think you probably have?
I don't think I have.
So in your 20 years in the same field, you haven't ever had to deal with a woman post-pregnancy with postpartum depression. That's bullshit, bro.
So neither had seen someone with that condition as the defense claims Lindsay has. And then you have the other part to the medical care equation. These doctors and providers didn't know how others were also treating Lindsay Clancy simultaneously. Rebecca Gelada, who was a psychiatric nurse practitioner at South Shore Health, testified that she also saw Lindsay Clancy several times, where Lindsay told her at times she was having intrusive thoughts and feeling completely hopeless. So Gelada also prescribed Lindsay different medications to try and help, including that antipsychotic that seemed to make things far worse. But Gelada was actually the one who explored a possible bipolar diagnosis, which Lindsay's defense team believes she also was suffering from.
Oh
But
my God, nigga. Postpartum psychosis and bipolar? What the fuck can you do?
testified someone denied to her that Lindsay could have an underlying bipolar disorder. And that person was Patrick Clancy. Gelada revealed that she had no idea that Lindsay had seen Dr. Tufts 14 times. She thought she'd only seen her one time in September, and she said she never talked to anyone from the other hospitals Lindsay had gone to. So much so, she said she didn't even have access to the records from McLean Psychiatric Hospital, where Lindsay saw Dr. Goodhart. Now, I asked law professor Cheryl Bader about a major takeaway I had after watching all of their testimony about Lindsay's care. One thing that I noticed is watching these witnesses for the prosecution, in a lot of ways, it seemed like their testimony actually aided the defense in terms of the massive amount of medications that were taken, the miscommunication or non-communication between all these different providers. She was going back and forth trying to get more help. And is that detrimental for the prosecution to have these witnesses that you're calling for your case? But then it seems that almost what they were saying was actually helpful for Lindsay's case.
Yeah, I think that the prosecution has to call certain witnesses to establish their case because they have the burden of proof. But often a mistake that prosecutors make is they get too far into the weeds and the details and they forget what the central issue is. Now, it seems like many of the witnesses didn't have their notes, hadn't been as familiar with the care, and that's really problematic because if the defense attorney understands the medical case better than the physicians, that definitely plays into the argument that the system failed her.
Now, the physicians Lindsay Clancy saw all testified they did not observe any psychosis. And these,
like I said, I'm not defending the bit, but 13 different medications in 5 months is fucking crazy. Someone ain't doing their job. Someone ain't doing their job, cuz 13 different pills.
medical facilities they worked at are also named in the civil malpractice lawsuit. The Boston Globe reported in an article that several facilities said they can't comment on pending litigation or they didn't respond to a request for comment. But the Globe did get a full statement back from McLean Hospital that, in part, said they are committed to providing high-quality mental health care for patients and advancing the understanding, diagnosis, and the treatment of conditions that uniquely affect women, including postpartum mental health conditions. They added in their response to the Globe that while they can't comment on Lindsay Clancy specifically, they mourn the loss of the children. Honestly, going through all of this research about her attempts to get better and listening to the testimony and reading the malpractice lawsuit allegations, it really made me feel like personally sick, almost on the verge of tears. It is just so sad and so tragic. And then, as if this trial wasn't already seeing unprecedented aspects, something happened that I have never seen before during a trial.
What? What happened?
As testimony was happening in the courtroom about Lindsay's hospital care, one TikToker caught the eye of Kevin Reddington and his defense team in real time. A woman named Emily Thorndike, who is a licensed clinical social worker, she started posting on TikTok about
Worked at the inpatient unit for 8 years.
Conditions and downfalls at McLean Hospital. Now, Thorndike had worked at McLean for over 7 years in the exact same unit that Lindsay Clancy stayed at for 5 days. But Thorndike left the hospital about a year before Lindsay was admitted. But Thorndike said prosecutors were making McLean seem like this was a top-tier care facility when she claims in her videos that there were understaffing concerns, lack of resources, and unqualified staff members giving care who did not actually have psychiatric or social work experience. Reddington decided this was all credible enough.
This is not good. You're telling me an ex-employee stepped up and told the real? Bro, she might fuck around and get away with this shit.
To file a motion to have the TikToker come in and testify about those conditions on behalf of the defense mid-trial. Guys, I don't know if we've ever seen that before. So will Emily Thorndike testify? The judge said no, he won't allow it. The internet seems to love Lindsay's attorney, Kevin Reddington. As soon as the Commonwealth rested their case and Reddington, or Big Red, as people on social media have now been calling him, got up to start his case, he focused heavily on the amount of times Lindsay tried to get help and the amount of people she expressed needing help to. Both Lindsay's mom and Patrick's mom testified for the defense, and both agreed Lindsay was a very loving and caring mother to all three of her kids. Her mom, Paula Musgrove, said Lindsay also told her in December 2022 that she had thoughts of harming the kids, and she recalled they had a
There it is. There it is. The fuck?
December 2022 that she Musgrove said Lindsay also told her in December 2022 that
just run it back a little
both
bit
agreed
further.
Lindsay was a very
Just so y'all niggas
loving
heard
and
it too.
caring mother to all three of her kids. Her mom, Paula Musgrove, said Lindsay also told her in December 2022 that she had thoughts of harming the kids. And
This is why I see through that shit, bro. I knew it wasn't the drugs. Drugs can't make you do that shit. Hell no. She wanted to take her kids off the map. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it wasn't the drugs. Maybe the maybe the healthcare system not being there for her. But yeah, maybe. But yo, it's deeper than these damn pills, bro. She had some. She was loose screw. She was loose screw, bro. You told your mom you wanted to take your kids off the map. You told your mom you wanted to harm your kids. Your mother. Hell no.
she recalled they had a lot of these texts back and forth daily for months, where Lindsay would detail the highs and the extreme lows of feeling better than worse as she navigated her mental health. And she remembered one of those texts saying, "It's just really scary, and I don't want to be alone." Now, Patrick's mom, Sue Clancy, was adamant on the stand that Lindsay was begging for help and that they were all very concerned. And that's when Reddington reminded the jury Lindsay tried calling the suicide hotline twice, but then was turned away both times because she didn't have an active plan to carry out suicide. And then while Sue Clancy was on the stand, there was this shocking back and forth that caused a dust-up in the courtroom. While being questioned by the prosecution, Sue Clancy confirmed she is of the Catholic faith. And then, in what seemed to be this out-of-the-left-field question, the prosecutor—
What that got to do with shit? What that got to do with shit? Pastors and shit be graping little kids. What that got to do with anything? I don't give no fucks. What that got to do? That does not help you, gang.
said, "So you're aware murder is considered to be a mortal sin?" And the judge immediately shut that down. He called an immediate sidebar with the attorneys and later instructed the jury that they cannot include that when they're considering a verdict. But they can't unhear that. The defense's case also gave us our first insight into conversations Lindsay had with the doctor.
They brought that shit up, thinking that religion was gonna save him, bruh. There are very much been faithful niggas that have done the illest, nastiest, craziest shit imaginable, bro. Let's not sit here and act like shit ain't happened with the most religious niggas.
Right after the murders, while she was still in the hospital recovering, Dr. Paul Zeisel testified he has seen Lindsay more than 45 times. And in the days after the murders, when he first saw her in the hospital, he said she was not faking it and presented as honest. He said someone who struggles with psychosis can have what he described as these intermittent symptoms, where one day they're fine, the next day they're not. The prosecution has argued as part of their case that Lindsay Clancy only reported hearing voices after meeting with Dr. Zeisel in the hospital. The defense has said that is not true and has repeatedly said she had a psychotic break and followed what the voices were telling her to do, which was to kill the kids and then kill herself. To fully understand this trial, we need to know Lindsay's thoughts before the crime. We've heard a lot about what she told doctors and family.
She was
but what
hearing
was
voices,
she
guys.
actually thinking herself? Well, that became clearer when State Police Sergeant Timothy Chiappini took the stand about his forensic search of Lindsay Clancy's cell phone. Now, that revealed what she was researching and looking up before the killings, and it was highly concerning. He testified Lindsay researched, "Can you treat a sociopath?" just 4 days before the murders. He also said searches on her phone showed how to slit throat to die and how to turn airbags off in Kia Sorento. And Reddington wanted the court to see and the jury to see that she was looking up ways to self-harm before this. He wanted to make it a point so much so that he actually held up a giant poster board so everyone could see it. Now, we don't know yet if Lindsay Clancy will take the stand herself in this trial. But I think for context in this episode,
she got
you
to.
guys need to hear what she says happened that day from her perspective, the day of the murders. And we know what that is because it's all documented in her civil lawsuit.
Bro. She has to take the stand.
Lindsay
has
Clancy
to.
remembers January 24th a little differently than just taking Cora to the doctor and building a snowman with the kids. Her civil lawsuit alleges she woke up with suicidal thoughts, and those continued throughout the day. Now, she said later that afternoon, she heard a voice that was starting to tell her, "You should harm the children." It wasn't long after she heard that voice that she and Patrick were discussing getting takeout for dinner, and she claimed she mapped out how long it would take him to get to all the errands because she didn't want to be alone for too long at home in case she needed help. Important note here, though, the prosecution claims she mapped out how long it would take him to be gone, so she knew how long she had to
delivery
kill the
apps.
kids
Why would
because
you
they
leave
say
your
it was
wife?
intentional and premeditated.
Why is
The
it
two sides
there's
very much
delivery
disagree
apps
on
for
her
this
motive
shit?
behind looking up the map directions. Lindsay then said after Patrick left, the voice in her head was screaming at this point, saying, "This is your last chance. Kill the children so you can kill yourself. You have to
What
kill the
the
kids
fuck?
so you can kill yourself." And according to the lawsuit, she then described feeling disconnected from her body, losing all control, and only being able to follow commands. Now, this part's really hard to hear. She
Nigga.
said as she strangled each of her children, she said,
no.
"Go to God, baby," before slitting her wrists and neck and then jumping from the window. Now, will she testify to this during trial? It is possible, especially with an insanity defense.
Bruh.
Either way, the outcome of this is really a matter of if the jury believes her story, believes her version of events. And they watched Lindsay uncontrollably sob in the courtroom during testimony about the autopsies of her children. Online, some trial watchers believed that was very genuine. Others believe it was fake. But what does the jury think? I personally think jury deliberations are going to be exceptionally tough. This case is just so complicated with such emotional devastation and honestly unique legalities that I could see the jury struggling to even agree on a verdict. And I asked Cheryl Bader about it. Would you be surprised if we saw a hung jury in this case?
Yo.
I think a hung jury is certainly a possibility, but I think jurors want
She's basically saying she was feeling controlled. Like she couldn't even control herself no more. What the?
to be successful in their deliberation. They want to deliver a verdict. And so I think they will try their hardest to come to some consensus. I'll also be interested to see, does the prosecution or defense ask for a lesser included instruction on manslaughter to present a compromise verdict to the jury?
If Lindsay Clancy is found guilty of murder, she will spend the rest of her life in prison. If she is found not guilty,
we need to start giving niggas death penalties, bro. You don't get away and just get to live life. I don't care if you're in jail, my nigga. You don't get to live the rest of your life in jail, bro. You gotta go.
by reason of insanity, she will be admitted into a psychiatric facility and will have to go through reviews to determine her mental state for possible freedom down the road, but she could be in a psychiatric facility indefinitely. If there is any sort of silver lining to any of this, the outcome of this trial could change women's health care, access to it, attention to it, and education. And I feel confident saying that. This has shined a spotlight on such a heavy topic. Cora, Dawson, and Callan had their whole lives ahead of them. They should still be here. As the trial continues on, I know you all are so invested. There are so many opinions.
Bro, them kids did not deserve that shit at all in no way, shape, or form, bro. No way, shape, or form. They bro, 5'3" and just born. They barely got consciousness. What the hell?
We begin tonight in Massachusetts, where the defense in Lindsay Clancy's murder trial rested its case. The 36-year-old has admitted to killing her 3 children in 2023.
Oh, shit. But she has admitted. Okay.
Clancy has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder because she says she was experiencing postpartum psychosis at the time. Jurors today heard from Dr. Philip Resnick. He's a forensic psychiatrist who was a key witness in the case against Andrea Yates, a mother who killed her 5 children in Texas in 2001. Dr. Resnick did a full evaluation of Clancy about 4 months after her 3 children were found dead in their home. He testified Clancy was, quote, frankly psychotic, and in his opinion, was suffering from bipolar II and postpartum psychosis at the time of the killings.
She was hearing a voice which was commanding her to engage in the killing behavior.
I'm not the smartest nigga in the book, but hearing voices being controlled, that sound like goddamn, that sound like possession. That sounds like possession, gang.
And she did not feel any sense of control. She felt that she had to obey the instructions she was
you had no
receiving.
sense of control.
Well, the prosecution called another forensic psychiatrist back to the stand. Dr. Avram Mack interviewed Clancy in April. Dr. Mack testified he had no reason to believe Clancy was ever bipolar in a manic state.
I can appreciate that she felt side effects and a degree of change from the medications that she took. So I don't know that that feeling or that belief is necessarily psychotic.
More supporters of Lindsay Clancy gathered outside of the courtroom again today. Closing arguments are expected next week. CBS News correspondent Chanel Call has been inside that courtroom. She joins us now. So, Chanel, what else did we learn from the witnesses today?
Well, Lana, the big focus of today's testimony was on Lindsay Clancy's diagnosis. So before defense rested its case, you had them call their last witness, Dr. Philip Resnick, as you mentioned, a forensic psychiatrist who also testified in the Andrea Yates trials. And just as he did there, today he testified about his diagnosis on Lindsay Clancy, who, again, as you mentioned, he evaluated 4 months after January 2023 when she killed her 3 young children. And he testified today. He found that she was experiencing postpartum psychosis during the time of those killings and thus should not be held criminally liable. Listen.
She had not only a command hallucination on the day that she killed her children, she had what is known as a delusion of influence. It was almost like she was a puppet and someone else was pulling the strings.
But then what happened after was really interesting, Lana, because...
Do any doctors really know what happens when someone gets what's it called? Postpartum psychosis? Does anyone really know what that shit do when you get it? Like, there's got to be someone that knows all the side effects. I just looked this up. I don't think you hear voices, gang. Do you eat? Hallucinations? What the hell? Harm to the newborn if left untreated. She ain't just harmed the newborn. She did it to all her kids. Not one thing in here about not one thing in here about motherfucking shit. What is it? Oh yeah, not one thing in here about hearing voices. There's not a single thing that in here that says hearing voices, gang. The hallucinations could be a thing. Like, could be like the closest thing I see. But nothing about hearing voices, cuz.
You have this psychiatrist getting his diagnosis, and then defense rested its case. Prosecutors, as part of their rebuttal here, brought their own medical expert, their own forensic psychiatrist, who said, actually, I don't agree with that diagnosis. His diagnosis was that Lindsay Clancy was experiencing a major depressive episode, and he said he didn't find any evidence in this case to prove she was experiencing any kind of manic state when this happened.
Now, Chanel, for those of us watching at home, we have no idea how jurors are responding to all of this testimony. You're there, though. What are you observing? Do you get a sense of how they're receiving this information that they're hearing from these two different psychiatrists?
Yo, I would hate to be on the jury, bro.
Well, I will say it appeared as though many of the jurors today were making notes as we were hearing some of this testimony. And that makes sense, Lana, because this is probably the most critical testimony that they would have heard throughout the course of this trial. The crux of this case is what was Lindsay Clancy's state of mind when those 3 young children were killed. And that is what we saw the back and forth about from these 2 medical experts who were testifying today. I'll also note the courtroom was packed. There were members of the public who came here because they wanted to see what it was like inside court and hear testimony themselves. And there were so many members of the public, they actually all didn't make it inside. Many of them, I'll also note, were women, and a lot of them were wearing pink in some way, shape, or form. Some were wearing pink clothing. Others had their nails painted pink. They were wearing pink hair accessories, all to show support for Lindsay Clancy.
All right, Chanel Call, thank you.
How the fuck could you support a killer? That's like supporting Jeffrey Dahmer, cuz, like, what the hell? What the hell? That's what really blew me. This is why I wanted to react to this, bro. Let's just go to TikTok. We gotta go to TikTok. Why?
We're here to send one message, and that message is that it should not take tragedy for people to start paying attention to mental health.
Okay, then show support for mental health. Don't show support for this bit.
I believe that women deserve support, and Lindsay didn't receive the support that she deserved.
Nigga, she had all the support in the world. What are you talking about? Yo, they're acting like she did not get help after she had her child. What the hell are we actually talking about?
We love you, Lindsay, and we're here for you. We're here to show support and love for her.
More than 100 people demonstrated outside of Plymouth Superior Courthouse on Thursday morning for Lindsay Clancy, the mother facing triple murder charges for fatally strangling her 3 young children. Her legal team is making the case of an insanity defense and says she suffered from postpartum psychosis. The tragedy has shed a spotlight on maternal mental health, and Lindsay's supporters say treatments of postpartum illnesses needs a reckoning.
My goal today is to support the postpartum health of women. I have 5 children. I feel like anyone who has had kids understands that postpartum period. Lindsay Clancy was begging for help from everything we can see, and I don't think she got it.
Professionally, it hits me, and personally, it hits me. With mental health, we've done a really bad job of recognizing that just because somebody says...
So let's just ask the people, right? All these women that have suffered from postpartum, have they ever once tried to take their kids off the map? Have any of them tried to take their kids off the map? No. Then what the fuck are we supporting a killer for? If any woman in this world has ever had postpartum psychosis, have y'all niggas ever thought of taking y'all kid off the map? And this shit don't make sense, bro. Cause I heard that they raised like $1 million. Is this it? Cuz. What? My nigga. Has had supporters raise $1 million to support her and her family. If this can't be real. Ooh. This isn't funny, bro. This is fucked. This is fucked, bro.
An astounding show of support today for
What?
Lindsay Clancy. Hundreds of women, all dressed in pink, cheered the accused mom as she arrives in a police caravan for her murder.
That shit really do say a million something. Yo. I truly just can't believe I share the earth with some of these niggas. This is unreal. This is unreal, bro. It's unreal. This is unreal. I share the earth with these niggas. You're telling me I share the earth with niggas that raised $1 million for a killer. Nothing else needs to be said. She definitely did that shit, and I don't think pills or postpartum insanity, fuck, I keep forgetting the name. Damn. I'm gonna just say postpartum insanity. It's the same shit. I don't think that any of that will make you want to take your kids off the map like that. Like, get the hell out of here, bro. Bring back the death penalty.
Look, some people need to be gone, bro. You know what I'm talking about? In order for shit to get better. And he one of them.
Simple as that, bro. Simple as that, gang. Simple as that. That's how I feel.